debaters will be doing group lives where we're going to be bringing up MAGA guests to debate. Okay, you can ask any questions that pertain to pushing us forward electorally. But if they're going to be just like the same leftist shit, then I'm just going to mute it. What do you think about the Walmart heiress helping to support No King's Day protest? I didn't hear about that. Tell me more about that in the comments. I thought that the Walmart, it's the person I think you're talking about. Obviously, like, most of them are crazy, but I heard that one of them is like a progressive. Am I wrong by that? Tell me if I'm wrong by that. It's kind of like that. You guys know about the woman that is she the granddaughter? I think she's the granddaughter of Disney, and she's like super progressive, and she like helps a lot of progressive causes as well. I'm doing good. How are you doing? I wish that you idiots would actually take accountability. I don't know a lot. Sorry. I don't know a lot that she's supporting it. If she's progressive, she's low key. Okay, I have to read about it. I haven't actually heard about it. Nothing happened with the tour. The tour's still going. How much money would you say W Trump for? No amount of money, honestly. No amount of money. I have worked with Republicans in the past, and I do that. No, not in the past. I will still work with Republicans, but it has to be a situation where it's a Republican versus MAGA, like a not mentally ill Republican versus MAGA. And if there's no chance in that district that a Democrat could ever win simply because we don't have the numbers to do that, then I'll absolutely work with a Republican to make that happen. Because especially in small communities where I'm from, like I live in a rural community, and there's no way a Democrat could win out here. I mean, literally our registration rates are like 90% Republican. So even if you had the best Democrat that the world has ever seen, they cannot actually win a race. But does it help to get people that are not insane Republicans on the city council? Absolutely it does. And that's what I will always do. Whatever pushes us towards progress. That's the goal. How do you justify a $500 ticket fee? They're not all $500. You don't have to pay $500, but this is a fundraising event for a voter registration program in the fall. So if you have $500 and you want to put that towards this because it is a really good cause, we're using that money to register voters as Democrats, then you're more than welcome to. But if you can't afford it, then there are other options for tickets that are significantly cheaper than that. That's actually the top level package. Thanks for sharing the live, Leah, and anybody else that could share it. That really, really helps. I'm doing good. How are you, David? It's getting really hot out here. I will say that. It's getting really hot. You know how people have like seasonal depression, but it's like always in the winter? I'm like completely the opposite. Like my seasonal depression's the summer, because when it's 120 degrees out, I just like lose my mind. Who are you debating? I'm not debating anybody. I don't debate. But there will be people on our tour that will debate MAGA folks starting tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to tune in, please do. Aren't you canceled? No, I'm not. I mean, I think being canceled is like ridiculous. I don't even think that concept exists. Kelly, I don't know what you mean. No, it's a fundraising event. So if you don't want to pay that, then you don't pay it. But people that want to pay it, pay it. That's like how it works. Who is the opposition, random people or known people? Oh, if you're talking about the main event against Destiny, then we're going to have, they're not unknown people, but I wouldn't say that they are like massive political, like it's not Trump, you know, but they do it. So, yeah, some of them have like pretty big followings. We are fundraising for a voter registration program starting in the fall. So our goal right now is to, it's right, the opposition. No, he's not. Our goal right now is to launch it in October. That's the goal. We might have to push it out a little bit further because it depends on what the situation looks like for our races then. So if we're in some like really heated races for the November election, then we'll push it out probably until like middle of November, but that will be the latest that we start. Oh, sorry. Like who? I can't, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to say at this point, like who the people are that Destiny's debating, but when we are able to go public with that, I will absolutely let you know. Is Ray Ray on your side? You'd have to ask Ray Ray. I think Ray Ray's, I think Ray Ray is, you know, working on his stuff. Vote red, don't vote red. Voting red is bad. How do you feel about what's going on in LA right now? I just am like so happy that there are people out there protesting and practicing the First Amendment rights. And I think the ICE is horrifying and despicable, and anybody that works for them should be ashamed of themselves. And yeah. I did see like some police that were taking a knee yesterday with the protesters, and I think that that's like really cool and really awesome. We need to encourage more people to do that. The police are doing horrifying things in LA right now. I'm sure that they are. I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I've so happened to be in places where protests have been like really heated. Like for example, I was like, I was at the BLM protest in Portland in 2020. Oh, sorry guys. What am I doing? I need to take my phone off the charger. Yeah, so I was in Portland during the BLM protest in 2020. And then I was before that, I was protesting for Trayvon Martin in 2013 in New York City. So I've been to my fair share of protests in places that have been like extremely heated. And like, I think like I'll think back as like a moment in history. And, listen, I saw a lot of police escalate situations that did not have to be escalated. Like, honestly, I mean, it was like actually ridiculous. But then, you know, I've also seen police that are just like everyday people, you know, that are just out there doing their jobs and they're not being violent. And actually, a lot of them were very supportive of what we were doing. Like, I remember during the Trayvon Martin protests, there was like a lot of tear gas. And I mean, it was just like really outrageous. And there were some cops that I remember that like stopped a group of us and they were like, listen, we think that what you guys are doing is great, but like please like just do X, Y, and Z, right? Like we don't want to arrest you, we don't want to do any of that. We just need to make sure that it's safe. Like help us help you, right? And I thought that was really cool, and we did, right? And like nobody was in trouble and nobody got tear gas or any of those things because we just followed the base, and the rules weren't even outrageous. They were just like, don't do this, like, which was like a very like I can't remember what it was. I think it was like, if there's an ambulance, like make sure that like you're not blocking the road and things like that. And we were like, okay, and that was fine. Yeah, Shaggy, you're gonna have to have like actual proof of that. So until you do, see you later, alligator. That was very millennial of me, I apologize. We will stream the event in Tampa. I was actually just saying this yesterday, that one of the biggest fails of our first event was that we spent way too much time focused on the creative team and like overnight editing and getting material out as fast as we could to creators, and not enough time thinking about live streaming. And we really, you know, we missed an opportunity there. Really missed an opportunity. If that's a compliment on my eyebrows, thanks. My girl Liv does a good job. Opinion on the Elon and Trump drama. Oh my God. Listen, the girls are death fighting. Isn't that what AOC said? And then like a bunch of like feminists got upset with it, but like they are fighting. I also just like wonder like if it was two women. Like, can you imagine if this was like Kamala Harris and like, I don't know, like Joy Reid or something. Like, holy fuck. Like, the amount of sexism that would be happening would just, holy shit. Can you say Laken Riley? Yeah, Lincoln Riley. Yeah, so if you guys are just joining right now, just letting you know that our next tour stop is going to be July 12th, Tampa, Florida. This is in response to Charlie Kirk's Student Action Summit. A lot of the right wing are like, oh my God, you guys are going to be like, you know, the like in the parking lot of the big game. And it's like, okay, that's great. But at the same time, like, the party has not done anything to combat Charlie Kirk in the last like almost 15 years. So like, we have to start somewhere, no? At a bar, yeah. I think it's a sports bar. I think it is a sports bar, yeah. No, it's not just $150. As I said, it's a fundraising event. So all of the proceeds are going to go to our voter registration program. But the basic level entrance fee is $50. You can also just like come outside if you want to say hi. You don't have to like go inside of the event. Do you think the lawsuit will be a win for the state of California? I fucking hope so. Have you actually booked the venue? Yeah, we did. We booked it like 3 weeks ago, I want to say. Put down a deposit and all of that, yeah. The guys that run that place are really, really nice. Yeah, no, Charlie Kirk is not charging $50 for his event. That's only if you're like under 16 and like a member of something or whatever. But if you're like an adult or I think it's over the age of 35, I think the entrance fee is $150. But we are going to be making our ticket prices a little bit lower because we want to make sure that people have got the opportunity if they want to come. We're not silencing voices that disagree. It's just that if you're like continually putting things in the chat that like I've already said, like we're not going to be going over, then like I'm just going to mute you. Because that's the thing with our platforms, right? Like we get to decide like who's here and who's not. Do you think Donald Trump would have won the election without the help of Charlie Kirk? Well, that's a really interesting question. It's hard to say, but what I will say is that the youth shift to the right was significant enough that I don't think he would have won the youth shift without Charlie. The youth vote without Charlie. Yeah, I can admit that. Here's the thing about me. I will never tell you that Charlie Kirk isn't like one of the best organizers in this country. Because he is. Shit, I should have put the timer on, guys. I don't even know when I started this. Anybody know when I started this? I think we'll just say till like... Okay. Yeah, so if you're like putting things like that, like we won that suit and that person actually in fact lied. So yeah. How many creators do you have now? We have 10, but we're working on getting some more. How many people are on this team? I feel like I see some new every day. What do you mean? Like, do you mean on the, like the creator side, or do you mean like staff? Staff, I think we have about maybe 7 people, maybe 8, somewhere around there. Can you tell us the creators? Yeah. So the creators are listed on our website. Some of them off the top of my head are Zombie. He's awesome. We've got Anne. We've got Mercedes, better known as Camp Callout. We've got C-Mags. We've got Dom, who's under the name That Black Veteran. Charlie Kirk has a bigger agency. Turning Point USA, correct. Right. He does, yeah. Need any accounting staff? Not right now, because we have a treasurer and we also have a tax person. But if you're interested, always send us your resume, because you never know. I mean, sometimes people get to capacity and we need to change or whatever. So please email us if for any of those positions. I keep people on file, and honestly, like, I had a tax agent I was working with for like 6 years or something, and then she like left and had a baby, and she couldn't work anymore. And I ended up like pulling a resume of somebody that sent it to me like 2 years before that. So you never know. Like, if you send something in, even if I don't get back to you right away, very likely I will in the future. Wait, are you guys going to a restaurant? I thought you were going to schools. We are going to schools, but remember, school's out right now. So in the summertime, we are going to, this event is in response to the Student Action Summit, which is Charlie Kirk's biggest event of the year. It's about like, I think around like 5,000 to 7,000 people are usually there. And it's kind of structured. I've never been there, obviously. I'm a Democrat, but like what I've been told and what I've seen is it's kind of structured like the Democratic convention is. So they have like speakers, they have workshops, like all of that stuff happening. So this is in response to that. But in the fall, we will go back on the campus tour. I heard something went wrong at Texas A&M University about licensing. Am I close to what happened? So here's what happened at Texas A&M. So we had scheduled like 3 weeks in advance for us to be 20 feet away from Charlie Kirk at the pavilion. That's where it's like a freedom of speech zone, basically. It's like part of the school. And the night before, they basically sent us a message or an email saying that they didn't realize how big this event was going to be. And because of that, they would have to cancel our spot. And obviously that caused a lot of chaos, because we were like, what do you mean? Like, why didn't you cancel him? Why are you canceling us? Like, we booked this just like he did. And we basically got like a non-answer for it. So we essentially were told like, okay, well, you can be in that spot, but you can't have a tent. You can't have amplified sound. You basically can't do anything, right? Like, you could just stand there. We were like, what the fuck? So that's when we started negotiating with them. We said, okay, let's just make the best with what we've got. They said we could have a, what is it called? Like a spot at the amphitheater. We'd have to pay like $6,000 for, and we were like, whatever, we have no choice. So we went all the way down there, and then they were like, oh, it's actually the wrong one. You guys are at the smaller one. It was a whole thing. But either way, our team did really, really well at making sure that no matter, because we had a whole plan, right? Like, we had the creative team station. We like knew where we were going to be at all different times of the day. Everything was like prepared. And at the last second, they were like, nope, that's not going to happen. So shout out to our creative team, who I don't even know how they did it, honestly, because we were like running around like chickens with our heads cut off trying to figure all of this out at the last minute. And they were just like in the right place at the right time before we even had to tell them. So that's why we're going to work with them again, because they are just amazing. Hold on, I'm going to try something. Mercedes, tell me if you got that invite. How about Harry and Chris? Why not invite them? We'd always be down to invite them, if I'm being honest, if they would want to come. Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it worked.
So wait, did we like pass?
Bro, it's go time.
What happened? I thought we had to do 3 of these.
Yeah, we passed.
Holy crap.
I thought we had to as well, but
that's cool.
damn, this is cool. Okay.
Oh wait, and now people are actually like requesting. It's so crazy because when I started this live, it didn't say anything. And then all of a sudden, like the invite things started popping up. And I was like, oh shit.
This is cool. Okay. We're good to go.
Now we're good. Now we are good. Should we try to get a Trump guest up here maybe?
For sure.
Okay, cool. I can't stay up for long. I only plan till like 4:15, but I'm scared.
No, that's fine.
I'm
Just
scared.
even if we say hi to them and be like, yo.
Or it might be like, oh, you can't bring people. Z, you can full screen yourself. Oh, I can? I don't know how to do that. If you're a MAGA supporter, please send us a request. But we're only going to take up MAGA supporters. Oh, okay. This guy's got a Trump picture, so let's see. Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Did you vote for Trump?
Yes, of course I did.
Are you over 18? Okay, cool. Why'd you vote for Trump?
For me, it must have to do with immigration. A second have to do also immigration, education, and also I didn't want how Joe Biden was running the country with like Joe Biden run as a Madrid and became the most progressive and the most consequential president of my lifetime.
Wait, you think Biden was of your lifetime? How old are you?
32.
Okay. Well, wait, you think that Biden was more progressive than Obama?
Yes,
In what way?
because Biden allowed more more mass immigrant in the country than Obama did.
Okay, so it seems like immigration is like your central. I could give you that, but I don't know if I'd agree that he's more progressive overall. I think that's a little bit of a. On immigration, we can agree on that. But like, so why exactly are you so anti-immigration?
Because it's not like I'm anti-immigration, because I think immigration can be only allowed based on the need of the country, not everyone who wanna come can just get in, like open border policy. I think immigration can be allowed if we have enough housing for them, if we have enough resource for them, if we really need it for a labor. But we cannot be like anyone like from Mexico or from Canada can apply for asylum seeker. That is not a way to go.
Wait, so are you saying that we don't need the labor?
No.
What? So what,
We already have enough labor in the country.
we have enough. Okay, so if all the immigrants left tomorrow, we'd have enough labor.
What?
If all the immigrants were gone tomorrow, we would have enough labor.
I'm not saying all immigrant. I'm talking about if all the illegal immigrant goes out tomorrow, we still gonna have enough labor.
Okay, so we're going to still have enough labor. In what places specifically would we have enough labor?
What place specifically? Because remember, when it comes to let's say farming, because usually a lot of people who defend the mass immigration usually they would call about the farming, about the agriculture need for the cheap labor.
Well, not just agriculture. I mean, that would be one place, but I'd argue that there'd be multiple places that would be in
Like what?
trouble. Like our building, our building industry would suffer greatly. In fact, we saw this in Florida. Remember when Ron DeSantis attempted to deport everybody, and they had buildings sitting out there for weeks that nobody was doing anything with? They couldn't.
Florida has the toughest immigration laws in the country, and they're still doing fine.
They still have illegal immigrants there.
I'm telling you, they have the one of the stuff in Florida. All the sheriff in the
Not
state,
illegal
in all the
immigrants.
local government work with ICE to deport illegal immigrants.
Sorry, I'm going to stop saying illegal immigrants. What is the term that we should use? It's undocumented
Documented migrants.
people.
Yes, undocumented people. Okay, so let's talk about undocumented people. Florida, as we speak right now, they have a law on the book that all the sheriff and all the local law enforcement work directly with ICE to deport to find the illegal immigrant or documented immigrant all over in Florida and deport them. This is the only state that doing that. Not any other state has a law specifically doing that, to work with the Donald Trump administration with ICE to deport. If immigration, go ahead.
Okay, but your statement, we got to go back to your original statement. Your original statement was that we would not suffer from a lack of labor if we deported all undocumented people.
Yes.
Okay, and where's your evidence of that?
Well, the short end of evidence I can show you is Florida. Florida right now is deporting mass immigrants. They don't have so-called those labor shortage that they are running out, screaming to call for illegal immigrant to come to work, because we do have enough legal immigrant to do the job. So that's why we don't need illegal immigrant.
But that's so like I'm looking at this study right here, the labor market impact of deportations. And this study finds that for every 500,000 people that are deported, 44,000 US born citizens would lose their jobs. So how is that going to help our economy? Will help current citizens here.
But here's the thing: if the Democrats believe the illegal immigration and mass immigration help their state, why would they were crying about when the Ron DeSantis was busing them to California and busing them to Chicago and busing them to New York? Why would they were chanting and crying about calling it a human trafficking? If you guys just want it, huh?
Who
Yes. New York lawmakers were calling what Florida was doing. All from MSNBC, they all were calling what Ron DeSantis was doing, and the governor of Texas, what they were doing was human trafficking. That's what they were calling it specifically.
Who specifically? What New York elected said that?
What New York lawmakers say that?
Which one?
Which one? His name?
I never heard that.
Okay, so his name is not specifically in my head, but let me see how I can.
But also, like, this whole thing of we're just going to ship people to another state.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. Like, what is
Why
that?
doesn't make sense? Why do you?
Wasn't your argument that as long as we have enough space and as long as we have the labor and as long as we have all that, it's okay, right?
Yes.
So in places like, for example, in my community, where we have one person per like every 50 acres of land, we can clearly have more people here. Why would we then ship them to a place like New York City that doesn't have the capacity for them? How would that be?
Because the people of New York, they're the one who support this kind of policy. If you support open border policy, you might host them in your own place, right?
First of all, you have to be specific. Like, what New York lawmaker says that they want completely open border policies?
Really?
Because I've worked with some of the most progressive New York lawmakers that would never say that. So, who specifically said that?
Really? Are you saying the New York policy, the New York politicians don't call for they don't call for like welcoming every illegal immigrant on their own communities?
New York politicians call for completely open borders. That's what you're saying?
Not completely open border. Call for open borders. Specifically.
That's the same thing, right? Like, you're saying that they want completely open, so anybody can just walk across the border, no type of paperwork, anything like that. That's just not true.
I mean, remember, here's the thing: all those amount, like almost people who passed through, millions of people who passed through during the Joe Biden administration, almost has zero vettings. They don't do any vettings because they don't have the time or the proper documentation to vet all those millions of people to get in the country. That's the most first natural security risk out there.
All right, so I'm looking actually right now at your statement. You're very wrong. Here, Eric Adams, he said that due to the influx of migrants and advocates for bipartisan comprehensive immigration reform at the federal level, including border security, work authorization, and legal pathways for asylum seekers, does not support completely open borders. Governor Hochul does not. Congressman Ryan has called for the executive action to address the situation at the southern border, streamlining the process for granting asylum and temporary protected status to those in need.
So really?
Yes.
So here's the thing. I'm not saying about Eric Adams because he know how bad immigration, how he was draining the New York resources. That's why he was not a fan of the mass immigration from the Joe Biden administration in the first place. That's why they opened a bogus investigation against him from the first place. But here's the thing. But here's the thing. When New York started, like when Florida started shipping the those immigrant buses to New York, when it happened, that's what they trying to change the narrative and claiming they don't want to open borders.
Correct.
But here's the thing. But Joe Biden,
the narrative.
My point is when Joe Biden letting all those millions of people to the country, there were zero Democrat call opposition, tell Joe Biden to stop it.
So here's my question. If you want to have comprehensive immigration reform, right? Like you're fine with people coming here as long as it's legal.
Legal, and it also have to be limited. Also has to be limited. It's only if we have enough resource, like if we have enough housing, if we don't have housing crisis. If we have housing crisis, we should not be bringing more people in the country.
But
because right now,
people. But we just already determined this. You're saying that if people are coming to communities like mine, where we have 50 acres per one person, and we have plenty of jobs and we have plenty of space, you're still saying that we should ship them to places like New York and Chicago that clearly don't have that. So your argument falls apart right there.
No. Here's the thing: people don't live on empty acres. You know that.
Yes, they do.
You and I don't. You live in a housing.
I live in a county.
Are you saying this
is completely empty? I have one town of like 40,000 people in my whole county.
Are you saying New York doesn't have housing crisis?
No, I'm saying that New York. I'm saying that New York does. So why would you? Well, first of all, that's a complicated issue because New York does have a housing crisis that could be fixed. And vote Zoran, if you ask me. Endorsement. But your whole argument here is that it's okay if we have the space and we have the resources, right? And we have the labor for them. But your argument is falling apart because you're saying that if people from my community, where we have the space and the resources, you're saying that they should be shipped to another place that doesn't, to prove like a political point.
Yeah, I'd also argue that this idea, like, you're on the really far end of the spectrum, my guy, because most of, like, okay, so, like, you have people who generally believe, I think all of us bipartisanly do believe that with a legal path to citizenship, like, we're not just going to cap it. Because what I'm hearing from you is, oh, yeah, because most conservative stance is, yeah, come over here. We love you guys. We want all the immigrants as long as you're doing it legally. That's normally what I hear from conservatives.
Yeah.
But your stance is to some extreme, it's more of an extreme that I have not really heard up until the past couple of weeks. And that is, yeah, legal. And then we're also going to put limitations on legal. That's even further than I've heard yet. So that's a new one for me.
No, I think that what I'm saying is more of a logical sense, because remember, you have to know the reason we're facing a housing crisis all over the countries is, in the past 4 years during the Joe Biden administration, they were like between 9 to 11 million people who entered the country, right? You and I know there were not 9 million housing built during the same time.
But you're confusing why we have a housing crisis. We don't have a housing crisis because we have, quote unquote, too many undocumented people here. We have a housing crisis because we have corporations that are buying up these houses, causing the prices to go up exponentially, where then single family people can't afford those homes. That's why we have a housing crisis, not because we have undocumented migrants.
Do you think bringing more people in the housing crisis time help or not?
What I think would help is doing things like what we just tried to do in Las Vegas, which failed, which is passing laws to say, we just had a bill, okay? Look this up. I swear to God, this is real. We just had a bill that they tried to pass that said that you can only purchase 100 homes as a corporation per year, and it fails.
So it failed. It was a referendum, or it was by the legislator, state legislator?
I believe it was legislative. Let me check, but do you understand how that's asinine?
He's kind of, when he says housing crisis, he's kind of painting this out to be like immigrants are going to come over here legally and we're going to have to put them on these empty farms where there's no houses because there are just no houses. Like, you could go on the internet right now and look up apartment near me and find 250 options, more depending on where you live. I'm not sure when you say when we're in a housing crisis, are you talking about housing affordability? Because housing affordability is much different than, we just have no places for these people to sleep.
Well, here's the thing. Let me give you a basic economy: supplies and demand. If you have
no. Hold on. Buddy, can you answer the question? Because I'm trying to understand what you're stating here. When you say housing crisis, I need the definition of what you're pinning that to. So are you saying We have
When
no.
I say housing crisis, the meaning of it, what I meant to mean is, what I meant is, when there is enough, and there's not enough housing, which increase the price very high, which mean no, a lot of people, a lot of even local people might not able to afford it. That is what we call housing crisis. When like a lot of people.
Yes, I know what a housing crisis is, but what I'm asking you is how you're using that. Because when you say, like, when you try to attribute the cost of the houses to migrants, that doesn't make sense. Now, if you were trying to, if you believed something from an X forum or something where you thought that we just simply do not have enough houses and they were going to come over here and we have to like go get Home Depot sheds or something, then we could talk about that. But when you start saying that the immigrants specifically are causing so what you're kind of.
I'm just applying the basic.
Hold on, let me finish. What you're kind of insinuating here is that immigrants coming over is the direct cause for the prices of housing to increase. Is that what you're insinuating?
No. I'm just applying the basic economic, like supply and demand.
No, yeah, we understand. Everyone understands supply and demand. That's like 2 + 2 = 4. But what I'm asking is, you're basically stating that you do not want immigrants over here because of the housing crisis. The housing crisis is the increasing price of housing. But I would like for you to explain to me how you think that immigrants cause that spike in housing prices.
All right, so
not corporate, and specifically not corporations.
All right, so
immigrants and not corporations.
Yes. So let me give you an example. Let me give you this: a small village out here with 500 people, and then there's only 400 home available. Imagine if you bring another 300 people on top of those one in the same amount of housings.
Well,
and
okay, but let's say that.
Doesn't that increase the demand for the same houses?
Okay, but sure.
Do you think that immigrants are just coming over here and buying houses?
Yeah, that's another thing.
That's like, do you think, not only do they need to develop credit within this nation, I'd say 99% of all immigrants who are coming over here who don't have money are coming over here and renting for quite some time before unless you're an immigrant who has an ungodly amount of money, which Donald Trump already gave them a path. It's the golden ticket passport thing, or golden citizen, whatever that thing is. Yeah, for sure. But immigrants who are coming over here aren't just coming over here and buying houses. They're renting.
Well, go ahead, finish. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, most of these immigrants that you're talking about, they're not just coming over here and being like, yeah, I'm going to drop two hundo on a freaking house right now. That's kind of unrealistic. I don't know.
But here's the thing. I can give you one thing. The housing crisis in New York and California, especially in LA, and San Francisco, and Chicago, it has nothing to do, for me, if you ask me, it's mostly have to do because they are not building more housing. Because why? Because they have so many regulations. Just to build a house permit over there in California can take you months, even a year. New York is the same thing because they have so crazy laws that prevent them from building more housings in their own state. With the zoning rules they have, with all the permitting rules they have, that I can give you.
That is a fact. That's a fact. That's an actual fact. I heard Ezra Klein talking about that too. Yes, California does have some quite ungodly zoning laws. It's the same reason why when you go to Texas, you can easily pick up houses in the big city for $200,000, and then you go to California and a house is worth millions of dollars. But again, I just don't see how that's the immigrants' fault, because we're debating immigration right now.
No, here's the thing. Because remember, I live in the state of Arizona over here. Arizona alone, in the past year.
I disagreed with you. No. What I'm saying is, I'm agreeing with your point. I agree to the fact that yes, California's zoning laws makes it increasingly difficult to build housing out there. You and I both agree and know that to be fact. Yes.
My issue is I don't blame specifically the immigrant for that. What I'm saying is, before you bring more immigrants, make sure you get your housing crisis in order.
Okay, so let's get the housing crisis in order. So why don't we put a cap then on how many corporations can buy homes?
I'd also like to point out that, okay, so just because California has an issue with building affordable homes, that is one state out of 50. If we look at what happened in what is that town where they said they're eating the dogs? They're eating Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have these towns all scattered throughout like Midwest United States where they're getting abandoned. These towns are pretty much being abandoned. Americans generally have walked away from them because they're moving to the cities. And that is a town that has been completely revamped and revived because of the Haitian migrants. And the population, they themselves say, hey, this town was going under, but now we're reviving our town. And most of the people in that town appreciate the migrants being there because it has revamped the town. So, okay, if the housing in California is overpriced, well, don't send them to California. Give them housing options in these towns throughout Midwestern America and allow them to completely revamp these towns that are being abandoned because the Americans don't want to live there anymore.
Do you think the small towns like Springfield, Ohio, have enough resources to take care of more than 30% of its population? Just this is like
they're building those resources.
What do you're acting as if they don't take jobs and don't contribute to the economy.
But they're making these businesses. So businesses, just like the amount of businesses that were opening within Springfield, Ohio, have been on a sharp decline. Businesses were moving out of Springfield, Ohio. These migrants came in and built their own economy. They've built their own businesses where they all, offer some kind of service or offer something to their own community. They've built their own resources themselves. These people are some of the most self-sufficient. I mean, especially from where they're coming from. This isn't like consumeristic, American, capitalistic, porked out people over here. These are some of the most resourceful folk. And when they get access to just basic housing, most of them go on to make their own businesses and provide services, not only to themselves, but now the Americans who did live there, who were in fear of their town being just forgotten and abandoned, now have a bigger economy for themselves to access and more resources for them to access as well. Like these little grocery stores or corner markets that these immigrants are building. Like, when we look at Springfield, Ohio, it was on a sharp decline. They moved immigrants in and then now it's on an incline. And the direct correlation that everyone attributes that to is the Haitian immigrants. So
But here's the thing, though, because here's a factual. Just California alone, they implemented policies.
Stop cracking out on California, though. Like,
no. Okay.
We're talking about America.
California, but we've already acknowledged that they might have a housing shortage. We've all agreed that that's not because of immigrants. But then you still haven't answered the question of: do you support the limitation of corporations buying single-family homes, or do you not?
Single-family home. I don't mind. I'm not very idiotic on that kind of policies.
Wait, so you're saying that because you were just saying, if there's 400 homes in a community and 300 immigrants want to come in and buy those homes, are you okay with the corporation coming in and buying 300 of those homes or not?
I'm not very idiotic about it. I'm not very idiotic.
No. It's just a
yes or no question.
Are you okay with that or no?
So let me straight answer your question. Should the corporation buy a single, affordable housing that available? The answer to that is no. But if corporation want to buy expensive house that no, it's not about it's not affordable. That's fine. If the house is not affordable, corporate.
Well, but then you got to talk about what's affordable and what's affordable to me might not be affordable to you. That's true. But basically, I'm talking about affordability based off the average income on that population or regions. That's one specific. Well, the average home in the United States is what, $420,000, right? So are you saying then that we should let corporations buy things that are over $1 million, and you're fine with that? And by the way, Donald Trump, who you support, he thinks that there shouldn't be any limitations on corporations buying up homes. The problem is people taking up homes. And by the way, if you have a problem with immigrants buying up homes, a lot of these people that are buying these homes are people that are living in other countries and have dual citizenship, and they're just leaving these houses completely empty. This was a massive problem that was happening in places like San Francisco and Los Angeles and in New York City. In fact, in New York City, they said that it's something like 33,000 homes are vacant. They're purchased by people overseas that just let them rot just so that they have investments. So you're okay with that?
No, but those are not affordable housing. Those housing.
What are you talking about? Yes, they are.
Those housing, have you seen them? They're very expensive luxury properties.
No, not all of them.
Yeah, not all of them, but
are just regular places.
but-
In places like Brooklyn, right? A lot of those places got bought up in the 80s and 90s, and they're completely abandoned.
And I think if it's in New York, there's a multiple reasons, because in New York they have like a crazy communist, socialist kind of law that
Communist
do right
in
to
New
rent.
York.
Yeah, because price
Well,
control,
what-
Can I ask where you
Wait,
live?
hold on. Tell me
What
one-
state do you live?
rent
Tell me
control,
one con- You
like
listen to
rent
Arizona.
control is a communist. Like if you have like rent
Wait.
control,
Hold
it's communist.
on. You just complained about a housing affordability for the past 20 minutes, and
Yeah.
now you're saying rent control is a communist idea?
Yes.
Idea?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. That's fine. We can discuss that in a second. Where are you located at? Like, what state are you in?
Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona.
We're neighbors.
Really?
Yeah, I'm in Nevada.
Oh, you guys face the heat wave we're having over here lately?
I can't, dude. I'm already I'm dying.
I was planning to come to Las Vegas because Las Vegas at this time usually have cheap room hotels.
Well, but look at the increase of costs in Las Vegas, for example, right? Moved to Las Vegas in 2017. The average apartment was $600 a month. Now the average apartment is $2,500.
Do you think Austin is communist, Austin, Texas, or do you think Vegas is communist because they have high housing?
I'm not specifically saying like all of the like all the classify all the city of communist, but the policy of price control is communism.
So I mean, you said that you have this issue with housing affordability. So what is your solution? Because I mean,
Build more housing.
Quite frankly, any city that you go to, I mean, across America, when the population gets higher and the resources available to those communities get larger, like when we talk about the large economy of like Austin, Texas, the price to live there, because it's a commodity, is a lot more expensive than if you were to live like in rural Texas. We see this across the board, which we can also attribute to the higher cost of living within these cities. So you're complaining about the higher cost of living in these cities, but then you don't want price control. And now I'm confused, which it's okay if you don't want price control. That's fine. But I just don't see where you would take a complaint to the high cost of living and then bash price control.
Let's give Josh a moment in the chat. W is for Josh. That price control isn't communism, as there's no price in communism.
Well, first of
Not
all,
wrong. He's not wrong.
okay. So here's the thing. You said the problem is easy fix. Let me give you a mind-blown idea. If New York today build from now to next year, if they build a 5 million housing, guess what had to happen? Rent will collapse. All the housing price will go down. If
But
they
the thing
build
is, but you're pro corporations being able to buy unlimited housing. So that's
No.
what the argument is going to fall apart, no matter what direction you go in, because your whole premise of your argument is that we need to make sure that American born citizens have places to live before undocumented immigrants have places to live. That's the basis of your argument.
No, my basic argument, feel me, I'm totally fine with restructured corporation for what kind of housing they can buy. I'm totally fine with that.
What do you mean? But you're saying that you are totally fine with undocumented immigrants as long as we have resources. That was the very beginning of your argument.
Yeah,
as long as there are
Yes.
places to live, labor to have, all of
Yes.
those things.
Yes.
So it doesn't make sense then for you to say, if you have a town of 400 homes, you're anti an undocumented immigrant coming in and purchasing 300 of them, but you're totally fine with a corporation doing that.
Yeah, I'm so
No. For me, like I'm totally fine with restricting the corporation that they can only buy like expensive properties, but not affordable property. I'm totally fine with that. I'm also because even right now,
But Donald Trump doesn't agree with you.
Donald Trump doesn't agree with me. I mean, I'm not on the cult. Like I don't have to be agree with Donald Trump on everything. No.
Okay. Well, I'm just confused. Like, when you complain about like the prices of things, and then like if you complain about the prices of things, you would think that you'd be anti like corporations directly affecting those prices to go up by buying up everything. I guess I'm just confused because normally people don't give a damn about the prices because they're so pro-capitalism. They just think it's running its course. Or they're like, yeah, we need to stop corporations from buying all these houses to like lower the cost of housing and bring affordability back. And it's just like you're arguing both points at once. So I'm confused.
No, the thing is, I'm not an idiotic person. Like usually, what I believe in is because it's not like a one size fit all when it comes to these kind of issues. Is because remember, corporation, we see when in Arizona over here doing the housing bubble in the 2022. You see Zillow buy a lot of properties. Now they were trying to sell it for a loss. They couldn't find anyone to buy it. So it's not always the corporation winning a win money. Because remember in California, the Arizona over here, the reason you see the housing price over here is dropping, it has to do because we build more housing than even California as the biggest state that has almost 4 times the population of the state of Arizona. We build more housing over here.
Did you say corporations aren't always winning because of like a housing bubble? Like, do you think that these large corporations increased their wealth or decreased their wealth during like the 2008 housing crisis? Like real estate investors as a whole and or corporations that buy up houses?
Well, 2008 housing crisis, what the government did was bail out.
But I'm asking, do you think these corporations in general increased their wealth or their wealth was significantly harmed?
Like usually every time
yes or no, increase or decrease?
Increase, I would say increase, not
yes, decrease. Every single time we've experienced any kind of financial fuckery, any kind of recession, these corporations, specifically in real estate, they call it like their golden years. Every single time we see the largest transfer of wealth to these real estate investors when, like, for example, during COVID, during the 2008 housing crisis, they wait for these periods to specifically buy up as many houses as possible because of the people going into foreclosure. So I don't know. I think that's predatory. And I think that if you want housing to be affordable, I think two things can be true at once. I think, we should put caps on how many houses that these people could just buy up that stop the average person from being able to buy them up, especially because most of these are turning into just like midterm rentals or Airbnbs. And that's why certain states are actually legislating against that, along with the fact that when we want affordable housing, yes, two things can be true at once. We should have better zoning laws so that we can build them and keep those prices down. But you don't solve the issue if people are still buying them up in mass.
Well, because the corporation, they has to limit how many houses they can buy. If you build more and more and more houses.
But Donald Trump and the Republicans are encouraging them to buy more. They're making it easier for them to buy more. And this is the biggest issue that we have. That's why I don't understand this whole concept of, well, I'm voting for Trump because I'm scared of the undocumented migrants, but you're not scared of the corporations that are taking up all of our housing. Like, I can't comprehend that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not scared about corporation like a corporation.
You should be scared of the corporations.
No, because they don't buy, like, in general, like the housing. Every corporation, if you look, like, say, New York, do you know how much a percentage of the like, say, the single family home owned by corporation in New York specifically? Do you know? Percentage usually it's very small. Usually it's probably only between 1% to 5%. This is not like huge stuff to be worrying about. When you can literally build more housing in New York if they want to, they can already remove the restriction of the height.
Are you sure about that?
Huh?
Are you sure it's 1% to 5%?
Yes.
I think you should look it up right now.
Okay.
So I don't have to embarrass you on this live.
Okay, single family.
And let's use New York City as the example.
One second. Let me see.
Park.
I'm just
Totality of America or New York?
He's thinking about New York. I think you should look at the totality of America because it would help him more than his New York City argument. But listen, I'm letting him go with this wherever he wants to go.
Okay, so over here, what I Google over here. Okay, let me turn my camera so you over here. This is over here, as you can see. This is what I was What I Google over here is here, the single family home owned by corporation.
You can't do single family homes in New York City because most of them are apartments.
That was my original claim, though.
Well, single family homes are only like upstate and in like small parts of Brooklyn and Queens.
But my point is still
Wouldn't even make up 10%.
Yeah, my original point was still there. I was saying a single family or family home owned by corporations.
Okay, but your whole argument is about housing in general, not just
Housing in general.
Single family homes make sense if you're talking about a place like Nevada or Arizona, but not in a place like New York City.
So do you want me to search in like let's say in Arizona or Nevada? Do you want me to search?
In Arizona or Nevada, I think you'd be more accurate, but in New York,
Okay, so
it's just not the case.
Yeah, I mean, in totality, like I think, yeah,
Okay, this is what it showed me though. Way here over here, it's less than 0.1% of the
No,
city.
that's not what I'm looking at. Not 0.1%.
What did it say? This is what it showed me when I Google it somehow. This is from
What are
2000.
you Googling?
I Googled a single family home owned by corporation percentage. You see over here?
What percentage of corporations own homes in New York City? That was what I Googled. And most of the resources are saying it's somewhere in the range of 89%.
89% of the single family
But
home.
also keep in mind that only about 30% of people own in New York City.
30%. Because remember, New York City, a lot of the buildings in New York is mostly they have like a lot of office spaces, which is usually owned by corporation. But the reason I say single family,
I don't understand because the whole start of your argument was that you want to make sure that American citizens are taken care of before undocumented migrants. That's the premise of your entire argument.
correct.
So you cannot have the premise of that argument and win this argument unless you also say that we shouldn't have no type of restrictions on corporations buying homes. You can't hold that position.
That is still not my point. My point is I still would allow to some restriction of corporation what kind of housing they can buy.
But again, you're siding with somebody that like Donald Trump doesn't agree with that at all. So if that's the reason why you voted for Trump, then I'm sorry, but that's the reason.
Donald Trump doesn't
agree with you.
Okay, listen, Donald Trump doesn't control local zoning or local housing because when it comes to housing in the U.S. in the United States, especially where I live, it's more it is more the people like more responsible for this is probably the local government we have over here, and because of we live in a federalist country, like Donald Trump cannot just change our zoning law. That doesn't work.
That's not what we're saying.
Yeah,
we're saying
if you have a problem with your zoning laws,
having no type of limitations.
But here's the thing. Even Donald Trump cannot regulate the corporation who live in our local state right now as we speak. They can only regulate on a federal level.
Okay, sure, but again, he disagrees with the premise.
The premise of it. Yeah, here's the thing. I have so much stuff I disagree with Donald Trump.
Trump, and you can't just say, oh, well, that's a local issue. Sure, of course, a lot of things are local issues, but Donald Trump there's a whole MAGA movement of people that are running for local office that are perpetuating these ideas at the local level.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think we're at a crossroads of an issue right here because my biggest contention is in blue states, yes, like Democrats happen to really F up the zoning laws. And I think they're realizing that it's kind of messing up, the affordability of houses. And I think more Democrats are starting to speak out on that. So I would like to see in blue, ran areas, some restrictions dropped on some of these zoning laws that are causing these massive, price increases on these houses that you should be able to put up a neighborhood in a lot faster of a time. It's not happening because all the hoops that have to be jumped through in these blue areas. I agree to that.
I can tell you something.
Hold on. We both agree on that, but at the same time, for like long term, allowing these corporations, which this is definitely a conservative whether it be a Republican you're voting for at the local level or federal level, just generally would never restrict corporations' abilities to buy up homes. When we talk about like these private equity firms, I mean, as of right now, they own 10% of all homes, you know, in America. BlackRock themselves has 106 million homes under their ownership. Like,
Can you imagine if an
I just don't.
God.
Huh?
Can you imagine if an immigrant had that much? Oh my God.
106 million homes, and it's like there's what, like 330 million. That's like almost half.
They'd be rioting in the streets.
Really? No, you know, conservative don't riot and protest like that's kind of virtue. They rarely do it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Did you just really make that statement after January 6th?
Yes, I say rarely. They rarely do that. Like January 6th, yes.
Oh, so the next time they're going to do it is when they fairly lose an election. Will that be the next time they do it, or will they wait for something else? I'm curious.
I mean, I don't think you less likely you're never gonna see those kind of stuff happening among conservatives because first of all, protesting is never usually popular among the conservatives in general. Protesting at any protesting because protesting is like a liberal or virtue signaling kind of practice ritual. And the thing is, usually conservative when they do the protest, usually it's very rare, and usually when it happens, usually never happen good. What they did, like what happened in like especially in in the January 6th.
But when it does happen, you guys injure 150 police officers, right?
And yes, we did.
It's not virtue signaling. Virtue
At least,
signaling.
okay, I'm going to tell you right. I'm going to tell. He's one of the first though that I've met that admit to that, because like. I have to agree that like when I look at protesting across the board, Democrats, yes, of course, progressive people are going to protest more. I mean, it's in the name of like progressives versus like conservatives. They're obviously not protesting a whole lot because they are okay with how things are, or they want to maintain how things are. J6 was an atrocity, and I do thank you for being a conservative who can like recognize that, because many of the conservatives are arguing that it was a peaceful event. And I think we all saw otherwise on the TVs. But regardless,
Don't go that far. I myself, I'm not a very fan of protesting by any means. I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm commending for.
Or not.
Okay, so my another point is here's the thing. Let's compare, because here's the thing. Comparing January 6th and like the BLM riot, with over 26 people were unalive. Yeah. Look at that, and the multiple cities were burned down, including the Minneapolis police station was literally abandoned by those woke governor. Like, I mean, that guy looks. That's
what governor are you talking about?
Governor Walz.
What are you claiming?
I mean,
yeah,
buddy.
Governor Walz abandoned the police station that were burned down in Minneapolis protest.
Okay, I mean, I can again. You're talking to an interesting liberal here. So, for example, I can agree that there are peaceful protesters that protest, and there are rioters that riot. And I will always advocate for someone's First Amendment right to go protest, and I will always denounce violence in anyone who chooses to leave the protest and instead, go down a path of burning something. You know what I mean? And like two things can be true at once. We should encourage people to exercise their First Amendment right. And then we should also denounce people who choose to hurt their own cities or hurt businesses of their fellow community members. Two things can be true at once.
Yes, the thing is, the thing I hate the most about protesting is when they're blocking the road, like people going to hospital, people taking their kid to school, people going to to the most job interview. They block the road, especially right now. They block the road in the 101 in California, and they're preventing a lot of people from doing their daily basis, their activist life, and that is not good. Just imagine if you have a flight to see your family member from the East Coast or anything, and then they block it.
I agree with you. I think blocking the road is there could be people in there who have to go see a dying family member. I think blocking the road is very inconsiderate to your fellow citizens. You and I agree on that.
Yeah, I'm not against it, like a protesting by any means. Like people, I think everyone should have the freedom to protest anything. Because remember, I myself, I hate seeing people burning American flags. But I know, but that doesn't mean I want to just arrest those people and put them in jail.
But Donald Trump does. So there's so many things that what you're saying Donald Trump is a huge advocate for.
But you have to know, like, those kind of issue is not my main priority on the top of the scale.
Wait. So you don't think it should be your main priority to protect the freedom of speech in the United States?
Yes, because freedom of speech is already protected in the U.S. Constitution. Even Donald Trump.
Donald Trump said that he wants to arrest people for burning the American flag.
Yeah, Donald Trump, like 2 days ago or yesterday, it was either yesterday or 2 days ago, stood up. He addressed a bunch of soldiers and said, we want to, put someone in jail for burning the American flag, fine them and put them into jail for a year. I would expect conservatives to push back on that because obviously it's not, that's against the Constitution, and a lot of conservatives claim to be constitutionalists. So would you agree that him saying that is wrong?
Of course, because the Constitution is clearly protecting that kind of right, and even because remember, I can accept Donald Trump having that opinion because for me and as a conservative, I respect other people have the different opinion than I do. Then other might not because we don't have to be.
The difference is that's dangerous, so that's crossing a line. You were just talking about how afraid you are of communism.
Yes.
Yeah, you can have an opinion, but when you're in a place of authority like Donald Trump, who just writes EOs out the ass, that's when that opinion would scare me.
Because remember, Donald Trump has a lot of issues that I agree with the most. But you guys I don't see any liberal talking about that. Like there's like a lot of stuff Donald Trump is doing very bad. That you guys will never talk about it. You guys always prefer to take like a cheap shot that usually doesn't have much of an interest.
The biggest issue with Donald Trump is that I don't know if I could say this on this app, but he's a wannabe dictator.
Dictator. You know, America will never have a dictator because our separation of power, it is impossible to become a dictator.
Oh, it's impossible.
Yeah.
I have a question then. If Donald Trump says that he's going to run for a third term, will you support that?
No.
You won't. So that will be your exit from MAGA.
I wouldn't classify myself as a MAGA. I would have studied.
You are. You voted for Donald Trump.
Voting for Trump. Remember, I myself. During the primary, I supported Ron DeSantis. Like I was Ron DeSantis die hard. But when the Ron DeSantis gone, I realized, even if Donald Trump run, like the worst, like the best Democratic candidate is Donald Trump still better than those candidates. Like the best, if you can bring like a Obama 2.0, Obama 3.0, still.
What is your biggest contention with Democrats?
My biggest contention is mostly cultural issues, and also in the immigration. The cultural issue is mostly because how they've been like able to implement it, like how they've been doing like a cultural rot in our society. That's one of the main thing
Can you explain? When you say cultural rot, what does that exist of?
Like our education system, because they turn out the best education system when we used to be the best education system around the globe.
Wait. Hold on. Okay, so did you just say that your biggest contention with Democrats is because of their societal rot, and then you just said the societal rot being the decline of education?
No. My point was look, our education system used to be the best in the education.
Exactly. You're bringing up the education. Who do you blame for the failing education system in America? So, like, have you ever looked at the stats of education by state?
Yes, I do. I looked at the stat or education by state.
Like, do you know, like Oklahoma? They're either 49th or 50th, one of the two bottom barrels for education, and they're the only state where every single county votes red.
And Oklahoma?
Look it up right now. Look up Oklahoma's rank in education.
Here's the thing. I'm not disagreeing with you that Oklahoma has bad education, because remember Oklahoma, the economy.
The red states in general suffer.
I mean, all the red states.
1 second. Like everyone can know, when it comes to education, the resource is the most important thing, and a lot of states don't have the resources for that. But here's the thing.
Okay, but why don't they have the resources? Would you argue that the reason they don't have the resources is because the people that govern their state?
or the reason they don't have resources because the state are not equal, don't like have equal amount of resources because some state would used to have more resource compared to but here's the thing.
Yeah, but how did they get
Would
those
you say it's
resources?
based off of size of the state, the resources?
No, the resource usually based on some state has more resources than other
Okay,
states.
but I guess what I'm asking you that is like, yes, some states have more resources for sure, but why is it that a state would have resources over another state? For example, why does California, or California is a bad example because they're kind of like a curveball, but if you have like a red state that is generally the size of, or maybe same economy as a blue state that has the same size in the same economy, why would Democrats have better education in that state versus Republicans? Because when you say that better resources, you would, I guess one could argue that the resources can sometimes be a direct result of the people who are governing them.
Because according to the liberal today's news, they rank Florida number 1 on education, and everyone
No,
knows
they do not. That is wrong. What are you talking
Well-
What
about?
did he just say?
He just said that Florida is number 1 for education, and that is not true at all.
Bro, can you share?
Yeah,
Okay,
just
yeah, let me
show me
do
your
that.
screen because holy crap.
No, I'm talking about sharing something else. Like I don't know. This is you gotta
Basis
not a
for
reality.
saying that the Democrats are the fault of poor education. What is the basis of that claim?
Well,
The
he's
basic-
saying that it's due to resources, but then you look at where the top 5 states in order of best education are all blue states.
Yeah, and I mean, conservative.
okay, so
Charlie Kirk literally has a book out that it's called "College is a Scam." Like it. I don't know if this is the hill you want to die on, bro.
This is definitely
okay, so right here, what's the U.S. News who ranked Florida number 1?
Look,
in
U.S.
country.
News. No, that is not. U.S. News does not get to rank Florida number 1. If you put it into any type of Google search, every single resource, almost every single one, like 90%, will all tell you the same 5 states. Massachusetts has been number 1 for like over 10 years. And Massachusetts, by the way, is not just number 1 in education. They're number 1 in life expectancy. They're number 1 in job growth. They're number 1 in almost everything. Healthcare.
Massachusetts higher education ranking. Yeah, that's the one to put on the top because they do have like I think it's the Harvard is located over there.
But all 5 of the top states are all blue states.
I'd also beg the question that if most of these colleges are in these blue cities, like why do you think that is? I guess when we're looking at like the personality types of people that get these educations or where these institutions are built, like I think it directly has to do with the fact that if you went and you built a college in Oklahoma just like right now, many of those people wouldn't even go. They wouldn't even. You're talking about this group that tends to be very like anti-intellectual. They think that college is a scam, and they'd prefer to go to trade schools, which everything has their place.
Right.
That's fine. But this argument that conservatives are the intellectuals of the
No. No, that's not the point because remember when Charlie Kirk was saying like college is a scam, it's mostly have to do because majority of the college education right now we have, it doesn't teach like the most fundamental stuff you need. That's the kind of job they don't like. People don't just leave education and they just stop like just gain out like a better career that can able to pay the student loan without having to worry about the reason we have the student loan crisis because they get a bad education that doesn't bring them a job that will be able for them to pay for the education. If you have bad education, you will never be able to pay for your education because
That's not true because why do doctors have trouble paying back their student loans?
doctors no.
Yes,
Doctors
they do. Yes,
doctors
they do.
have
There are
one-
doctors that are, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt after medical school.
Well, I mean, and even then, I don't think that's necessarily the argument as much as it like this is a free country. You should be able to pursue whatever education you want, and as a result, if you can't get a job afterwards, okay, that's whatever. But like, that still doesn't change the argument of
because for me, I
say
do
that
support.
conservatives could like I'd argue that conservatives, and I don't even know this statistic, and I'm just going to pull this out my ass, and I could look it up, and it's probably going to be true. Like conservatives on average don't go to college in the same way that liberals do, or like people who lean left. So I don't. regardless of if you think college is a scam because of what degree this person decides to get, I just think that's, regardless, one side of the aisle really, really, really rallies behind education while the other one says things like college is a scam. Regardless of what that education is, the words college is a scam, or I've heard a lot of these conservatives tout this idea, especially Charlie Kirk, that the man should go to college and the woman should not get college, should not go to college, instead should take care of the family, which, again, it's fine if you believe that. This is America. You have the rights to believe that. But just to make that argument that red states or just conservatives in general care about education more, when we look at the funding, conservatives fund their schools way less than Democrats fund their schools. So I just don't, and that's part of the direct reason as to why there's more education in blue states, because Democrats are willing to fund it, where conservatives are willing to cut that funding.
Most of the funding usually go to the administration, not actually to educate the people. Most of it, because usually those school system they usually have so many administration on those school system, and they blow up the budget. When reality in California right now, the people from 12th grade are having a difficulty of literacies, because people going to high school, they don't even pass the basic literacy test of people going to high school right now in California. That's like a big crisis over there, because
can you look up in your phone right now which state produces the most non-readers, or which state has the highest rate of illiteracy? Can you look that up and then come back and tell me which state? I'm not going to look it up. I'm just curious, and I feel like it's going to be a red state. So just type in your Google search bar, which state has the most illiterate citizens or illiterate adults?
Actually, I think I know what this is, because I think I looked it
It's
up.
probably going to be fucking Oklahoma or Alabama.
Hey, hold on a second. I have a question for Cactus.
Yes.
Do you believe that the Department of Education is responsible for the problems across the country of low education?
Basic of the statistic that before Department of Education existed, America was #1. Now we can't even hit the number 10. So I would say yes.
Okay, so how does the Department of Education affect the curriculum in local schools?
It incentivizes a school system and the granting based off some dubious rules, or some dubious. They'll use what they usually probably do in practice is they will say they will ask some school to implement some policies. If the school refuse to do it, they might not get a grant or funding for it.
So you're suggesting that giving my local school district an incentive to do something is what's causing them to choose poor curriculums?
They use poor curriculum, because remember, there was stuff like hurting American literacy rate, especially. You're just
throwing out platitudes. What I want to know
one second.
is what are the cause and effect that you're trying to cite to say the Department of Education is hurting education in America? I was on a school board.
But here's the thing. My point is technically, Department of Education, I'm saying, it doesn't help education we have right now compared to when there were no Department of Education. I'm not saying specific there, because they don't take, federal has no power on when it comes to education. The education is always belong to the state level. But my point was, for me, I do believe departments of education should not exist. I think the federal government should give the money direct to the school system, because I do believe the local government probably know better about how they run their school better than the federal government do, because one size fits all, it doesn't work.
Sorry, guys, I do have to end this pretty soon. I was only meant to go live for half an hour, and then I've skipped my call time. But any last thoughts? And thanks for the conversation, Cactus. We all disagree with you, and we hope that you see the light.
What light?
The light that Donald Trump is not helping you. If you're a middle-class person, you're a working-class person in America, unless you're a billionaire, Donald Trump is not going to help you.
But the thing is, what you guys don't know about Donald Trump is like no one's seeing Donald Trump as a middle class or lower class, like lower class, like a homeless people, like siding with little people. That's not. Everyone know Donald Trump is just another elite, former liberal from New York. Like Donald Trump is still a liberal in so many ways. You guys just trying to ignore it. Donald Trump, like, a lot of his ideology is still pretty liberal. Like even abortion is more of a like bisexual when it comes to abortion.
Well, 15-week ban is not really, but and he's not. No, I don't think any of his positions. He was more liberal in the past. Sure, I guess you could make that argument, but he is not at all liberal now. And he's not.
No,
and you just said it yourself. You said that he's not. He's elite. He's not here to help you. So why would you go into the ballot booth and vote for somebody that you know is not here to help you? I don't get that.
I mean, Democrat is making just the elite, coastal elite. That's what makes the Democratic Party. What do you think?
I'm not gonna listen. I'm not gonna sit up here and pretend as if like the Democratic Party has done everything right. I'm not saying that they are, but sometimes when we go into the ballot booth, we have to pick the best of the situation that we have. And Kamala Harris was by far there's not even a world in which they were tied, right? Like she was by far the better choice.
But remember, in the 80s and the 60s, down like a Democratic Party was very hawkish when it came to immigration. They were very hawkish because back then, Republican was open border.
Bush wouldn't agree with anything that Donald Trump says about immigration.
But
Right?
here's the thing. During the 80s and 70s, the Republican was the most open border policy. That they were the one who always for open border because the only reason Republican wanted to open border back then because they want to cross the union because back then the Democrat has a very strong union all over from the Northeast that usually help them winning election. When Republican know only way they can make not gonna be a strong union in a country is by having a mass immigration. That's why then Democrats somehow just switch and realize you guys now don't have the unions, but you still support the open border.
What do you mean? We have the unions. Almost all the unions supported us and still support us.
You think the unions are strong now?
Donald Trump got like one union endorsement, and didn't they pull out?
But majority of the union workers and what they call I forgot their name voted for Trump. The union leader.
Yeah,
yes,
that's like such a broad statement. You cannot say that. There are unions. There are thousands of chapters of unions in every state across multiple different sectors. You can't say that union members mostly voted for Donald Trump. There's no evidence of that at all.
No, I'm talking specifically in the East Coast.
Yeah, but I think he might be. There is a large percentage because I did a little bit of a study on this a little bit ago. There is a larger percentage of people in the unions that voted for Donald Trump for sure. But then they started crying about that vote when they realized some of the policies being put in place are like against them. For example, I think we had a situation in Utah where a bunch of people who belong to unions showed up and protested within the building. They were singing. They were very upset because there was some legislation proposed that would have hindered their ability to unionize, and then they were all crying about it, yet they elected the Republicans who took their ability to unionize away. So I'm not really sure,
because I myself, I'm not a pro-union by any means in general because I see what the union usually do. If the union is about like helping other people working, like working class, like to get a better opportunity, yes. But union in practice, especially in America, is more like a political power for the Democratic Party. They just mobilize them to do. Usually, unions will always.
So you don't really know anything about unions, is what you're telling me.
I don't know much about union, really.
What state are you
That
in?
was obvious.
Really.
What state are you in?
Arizona.
Arizona, right to work
You're in
state.
Arizona.
Yeah.
So basically the biggest union presence you have there is the Service Employees Union, right?
Service Employees Union. Yeah, probably, yes.
Yeah. So do you get federal holidays at your job?
Me? Yes, I do federal holiday. Yes, I do.
Do you know why you get federal holidays?
I'm not a union member though.
That's not the question. Do you know why you get federal holidays?
Because my corporation offer me that.
Yeah, because unions made employers start giving federal holidays, and the non-union companies that have employees to compete with those who have unions started offering federal holidays. How about weekends off? Do you get weekends off?
Me? No, our job we work like all day. So like we do get a days off, but not on the weekend. Yes, you get 2 days a week. Every week you can, if you want a weekend, you can request weekend off.
Okay, but you get 2 days off a week, right?
Yes,
Do you know why?
because my employee give it to me.
Your employer gives you 2 days off because the unions fought for a 40-hour work week. The unions don't fight for the Democratic Party, they fight for workers' rights. But you're saying that the only service they provide is to prop up Democrats, which tells me that you haven't looked enough into unions.
I mean, just a couple minutes ago, you guys were bragging about the union. Just a couple minutes ago, you guys were bragging about the union endorsing Democratic candidates.
Yes, they do, because the Democrats tend to support a 40-hour work week and a living wage and health benefits and holidays and overtime, things that the Republican Party fights against. So that's why a union is more likely to support the Democratic Party.
I mean, if you ask me, the main reason you see the union from Detroit, especially during the boom of the car industry, manufacturing industry in the East Coast, it have to do was destroyed by the unions, because the unions sometimes they will ask for so unreasonable stuff that like, why any corporation will pay American 3 times the wage of what they would pay in Mexico, and then get so many regulations and so many health benefits when they can literally locate their company right to the Mexico or Canada and get a better paying wage, or they get
So what you're saying is we should get rid of unions and all Americans should agree to go down to the same wages that Mexicans have or Canadians have, instead of having an American standard of living.
No, that wasn't my point. My point is,
Well, you just said the problem with unions is they want higher wages and benefits and regulations and stuff. You said that was the problem. Your words.
Yes. My point is, just remember, higher wages. Everyone wants higher wages. There's no one working in a company telling that, you know what, my wage is too much. You have to cut it off. That usually doesn't happen. Everyone will usually want more higher wages. But you have to know, the high wages you want have to be profitable or help the company to succeed. If the company is paying more than his profit or more than his revenues to the employee, if they don't get a profit, if they cannot get 60s,
then you can't hire anybody.
The company will fail.
If you can't get a profit, if you have to pay somebody minimum wage, tough luck. You can't hire them. So sorry.
It doesn't have to be minimum wage. It doesn't have to be minimum wage. But my point is like this company, if you guys make it unreasonable to hire American workers, they will move out of the country.
No, that's not true. The problem with that argument is that first of all, it doesn't happen, right? The reason why Amazon still wants to be in New York City, even though New York City is telling them that they have to pay their taxes when they know they could be in another state. So if your whole argument is that, okay, well, the Democrats are fighting for $15 an hour because that's a living wage, even though arguably it's not even a living wage anymore, since we've been fighting for the same shit since 2009, and we haven't had an increase in the minimum wage since then. But even so, the Democrats are fighting for that, and Republicans are fighting against that. The unions are going to go with whoever is championing the working class people. You're against the working class because you're not supporting a $15 an hour minimum wage.
Remember, $15 minimum wage, actually, if it was passed by law, by federal level, actually will help like especially small state and a red state more than it would do to help the Democrat. I know that. But the main issue, the reason Republicans get against by principle is there's a lot of small business, mom and pop shop that cannot afford to pay that kind of money. That means you paying that kind of money will end up making them they shut down their business because they cannot afford it.
If you can't afford to hire somebody $15 an hour, then your business is not strong enough to have employees.
Oh.
Sorry. I mean, listen, I'm a business owner, right?
Yes.
I pay all my employees over $25 an hour. And if I can't afford that, then I just don't hire them. I mean,
because you're a communist?
Huh? I'm not a communist.
I'm kidding.
Living wages is not communism. Like, I guess it's.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, no. But I guess it's crazy. What's crazy to me is because everyone could agree that the price of things have gone up and that the wages should reflect that. So when we say like a $15 minimum wage, that is in direct reflection of the prices that we as consumers, are subjected to. This would be like, okay, for example, if you went back, like 80 years ago and pretend everything matched, like you were making $5 an hour and that was in harmony with whatever the prices were, like they weren't disproportionate against one another. This would be the equivalency of you being like, you know what, all of you people don't deserve the $5, you actually deserve $2. It wouldn't make sense because the $5 is matching the price of inflation at the time period. Right now it's not matching, and that's what
the easiest way to increase wages without like any policy. I mean, if you tighten the job market, the wage will skyrocket very fast. I can promise you, if Democrat even want $50 minimum wage, tightening the job market. If you tighten the job market, is if there's the less employee out there and then more jobs available, you're gonna see the wages were gonna increase very fast. But
what do you mean by taxing the job market?
Tightening, which mean like when there is more jobs, then the more people is available. That's what I mean. How you tighten it, I don't know what kind of parts you can use to tighten it, but it's always have to do if there's more job and the less workers, do you see the wage skyrocket very fast?
Right, and that's when that's the whole idea behind trickle-down economics. So if we stop taxing the businesses, then they will invest that money into more jobs, and we've been trying that for 50 years and it hasn't happened.
No, but here's the thing. Taxing the business you guys support, you guys just trying to know that every time you tax business, they will always pass those expenses to the consumer all the time. Try it every time. The reason you see New York and California like a slice of essentially the cake is so expensive, and let's say in California it's like $5 to $6, and Arizona over here like a slice of cake is $3 over there from Whole Food, essentially the cake.
I mean, this comes from the need of corporations. They come in a perpetual state. Like there's never enough satisfaction. They have to turn year in over year, like record-breaking profits every single time. And that's the issue. That's the root core of the issue, because again, we're in a time period in which if you look at the actual charts, you're going to see inflation going up and wages staying like stagnant. So we have to do something, because in your argument, we do nothing about it. We just continue doing what we've been doing, but it's just shown to us over 20 years now that that's not working. Doing what we're doing isn't working. So why would we not implement a minimum wage when that would be the thing that we could do that we haven't tried yet, that would hopefully work? In an idealistic world, it would work if corporations did not, again, have to beat profits year after year, quarter after quarter. That's the issue. Is like, yeah, of course we're going to pass it off to the consumer. At what point is that a product of late stage capitalism? Instead of like understanding that, yeah, like we can't just not pay people because we don't want prices to go up. That's the people's fault.
My point is, every time you see the Democrat, especially the socialists, waging for tax or corporation, everyday constituents should know that this is undirect taxing to them, not to tax a corporation. Because every time they tax a corporation, will always pass.
So what would be your solution? So if I pulled up a graph right now and I showed you that the inflation is the like fucking Mount Everest looking, and the price of the cost of living is like just skyrocketed, and then people's wages aren't matching that. Like there's a disproportion there. What would be your way to fix that? Because it hasn't fixed itself. That gap keeps increasing. What do we do to fix that?
For me, my solution over here is maybe very crazy. If they tighten make sure to reduce the immigration, especially like a visa.
Okay, no. Immigration has nothing to do with the fact that companies are not paying workers enough. Whatever your solution is, keep immigrants out of it, because they have nothing to do with it.
Because remember, in America, a lot of people might not know, we have so many multiple visas type available.
No. I'm asking you, what is your solution? So when someone's working at the grocery store and they're getting paid $10 an hour, yet they're expected to afford an apartment that's like $1,700 a month, and that is like the cheapest in their area. Like, what how do you fix that? Because this is the reality of what a lot of Americans are going through, is their job is not proportionately paying them to whatever their lowest cost of living. We're talking about people buckling down in ways we've never seen before. We're talking about, again, before a family, a dad could support the entire family, the kids and the mom. We all know that that's not happening now.
Do you know the difference?
Hold on. These families are now having to operate off of two incomes, the mom and the dad. This is a direct result of the gap that we're talking about. What is your way of fixing that? Leave immigrants out of your answer and visas out of your answer. What is your way of fixing that?
Okay, so because remember the time like one male salary can able to buy a house, pay for mortgage for whole his family. That time when they were almost immigration was so low back then. Like remember back then,
it has nothing to do with immigration. You have to answer the question while leaving immigrants out of it. This has nothing to do with immigration. A grocery store refusing to pay their employees has nothing to do with an immigrant. That has nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not gonna say immigrant, but how about population increase? Because remember, American population doubled since the 1970s and the 60s,
and so has the businesses, and so has the corporations. Everything is proportionate except the pay. We have enough businesses. We have enough resources. As the population has grown, so has the corporation, so has the businesses. Everything has exponentially increased except the wages.
Because because we have inflated market workforce. We have the corporation. If they can pay people cheap, why would they pay them more expensive? That's my main point. Is the corporation we live in a free market capitalism society. If there is more workers, the corporation will try to pay them less as possible as available than if there is none. That was my main
original argument. Solution?
Huh?
Well, what is the solution to? How do you get? I'm asking. I get so. How do we get the worker to go from? We have I think the national minimum wage is $7.25. Like, do you see how that is insane? That the national minimum wage is $7.25.
But here's the thing. No one in California or New York or people who live in an expensive state they're not paying the employees like a $7.25 anymore. Because even in the state of
but you keep referencing California as if California is the entire universe. Like that's just not reality. There are plenty.
MAGA is obsessed with California. If you didn't.
I mean, there are plenty of states in which people are actively receiving that $7 minimum wage. There are places in rural America where they're receiving $7 minimum wages. So I just don't. I'm not.
It's the most affordable place you can live in. Living costs in rural America. Okay, but there's
so I guess it's like this is like it's such a pull the ladder up mentality, and it's one of the things that I have with. It's one of the issues I have with a lot of like the older MAGA community is this idea that they got to live most of their life with it being proportionate, with the amount that they were being paid matching the inflation. And then as inflation increased and the wage stayed stagnant, they said, okay, it's not my problem anymore. And that's crazy to me because you're not offering any practical solution as to how to fix that gap. People have consistently had the privilege to have their inflation and their wages match. This is why people in the past used to support a house off of a husband. Now we do not have that. If you wanted to go trad wife and you wanted to be a trad husband, like good luck. That's a pipe dream.
No, that's not like my dream because remember for me, I do believe everyone like in America every woman who wanna live as a trad wife, they should live it. If they want to live as a liberal woman, cat woman on their own apartment. Yes,
no one's talking about that.
Because for me, I am not those person who's like you have to be one idiot, right?
No one is saying that. I'm literally asking you to provide a solution as to fix the gap between inflation and wages. That's it. It has nothing. Stop clinging on to the social aspects of what I'm saying and address like the actual. Try to come up with a solution What is the solution?
Because
1, 2, 3,
increasing
go.
minimum wage usually it doesn't help much. What you're really talking about, because usually what happens is a lot of people are going to end up losing their
He has
jobs.
no solution. There's no solution.
I do have a solution. I said tightening the job market so the wages will go up.
What is this? You said
Tighten the job market. That was my solution. I said.
taxing the job market.
Yeah, tighten. Yeah.
What does
What I
that
said-
mean? What do you mean by taxing the job market?
No, not tax. Tighten. Like tighten. What you mean?
Scheduled for 5:20 p.m.
Tightening the job market. What do you mean tightening? Like just
That seems very communist, if you ask me.
Okay, so tighten the job market is make sure there's not a lot of employee, make sure there's a lot of job and less employee available.
That's not, how are you going to do that? That's not possible.
The
thinks-
it is possible.
he thinks that's easier than just paying people livable wages.
Yeah, literally, just pay them.
That's
I
crazy.
just don't understand it. Like, as somebody that runs a small business, it's just not difficult to pay your employees $23, $25 an hour. It's not.
Yeah, and I mean, even
Oh
if
my
you're,
God.
and even if you're not going to pay them $20 an hour, like I think like proportionally, like $15 an hour minimum wage would do wonders for a lot of people, and it's not going to disrupt in the ways that he thinks this is going to, considering most of these states, like for example, where I'm at in Austin, you're not going to find a job. I mean, you're going to have a hard time finding a job that pays you less than $15 an hour because they already know that no one's going to take it because they can't live off of it. But there are places in this country in which, yeah, I mean, people are suffering.
But the
because
issue you
there
were
are
talking about-
horrible employers.
But here's the issue you were talking
Huh?
about. It doesn't apply to New York. If it doesn't apply to New York or California or the big cities, then I don't know why you're so concerned about it. Usually, if it's
Because I
applied
care
to
about this
both
country.
towns-
I'm not hyper fixated on New York and California. Like I don't understand. I guess I'm really not understand about your fixation on New York and California. Just because you could perceive that New Yorkers are making good money doesn't mean I don't give a damn about people in like. I mean, granted, I talk a lot of shit about Oklahoma, but I would want them to be making livable wages as well.
I mean, the $7, because remember, money to value ratio is very different compared to the big cities, to the small towns. I want you guys know that. Because remember, $100 value and
You don't have to explain that. Everyone knows that.
Oh, okay. So that was
Sorry,
my
guys, I
point.
do-
But
I
I
do
gotta
have
go.
to
Thank you
wrap
very
it.
much for having me.
Yeah, I gotta wrap
go.
it up. But thank you so much for coming up. And just to quickly wrap up, sorry guys, this was an impromptu live. Glad we did it though. Thanks Mercedes and Vic for coming up. And just wanted to remind everybody that the Unfuck America Tour Creator Lives will be every Thursday and Monday starting from tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. Please look up our website. Our next tour stop is going to be on July 12th in Tampa, Florida. We are going to have Destiny headlining that event. So please check it out online. There are tickets available now. Also, if you want to sign up to volunteer with us, please do that. We would love to have you. We have several committees in the works. If you're a college student watching this or know a college student, we are also setting up chapters. So you can reach out to us on Discord. Or if you just want to join our Discord community, we'd love to have you there as well. Anything else I'm forgetting or last words, Mercedes, Vic?
No, I think that's it. What about you, Vic?
I think you covered it.
Cool. Well, appreciate you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Everyone have a good night.
Bye.